So I'm going to do the quick review of 3.3. They just began a discussion on slopes. It's not everything we know about slopes, but it's a beginning discussion. And we're going to do a quick review of what you will find in section 3.3. The first thing they tell you is that the slope, which is the slope of a line. So, for example, if I draw a line straight, there's no slope here. I mean, this is straight and easy to walk. But if my line was at an angle, then it's going to be a little harder to go uphill, right? And the more steeper it is, it may be impossible to get over or go up the hill, right? So the slope is represented by a ratio. It's a fraction that's telling you how far over and up per unit is the slope. How far over and up this slope is. And that's represented by a ratio. You'll see it represented with a small m, and it'll be written as rise over run, or it could be called the vertical change over the horizontal change. All right? But again, these are ratios or fractions. That's why they have the division bar. If you're given 2 points, then you also know that the slope can be, of the 2 points, would be the change in y, the subtractions of the y, and the subtractions of the x's in the 2 points that were given. And that's why sometimes you'll hear it called the slope is the change in y over the change in x. So you may hear that verbiage as well. So let me just give you an example. Here we have, it says find the slope passing through the points 1, 2, and 4, 7. So they're giving us 2 points, right? And so we're going to use this point slope formula. That's what this is called, is a point slope formula, which is the change in x over the change in y, and we can find the slope. So the first thing you have to do is determine, is this going to be 0.1 or is this going to be 0.1? Which one's going to be 0.1? Which one's going to be 0.2? It doesn't matter which, but once you decide, you have to be consistent. So I'm going to let the first point be represented by the 1, 2, and the second point be 4, 7. All right? So that when I'm plugging in, when this says y sub 2, that's saying that 0.2, you want the 0.2's y. Okay? And this one, I want the 0.2's x's. This one is the first y. I want 0.1 y and the 0.1 x for here. So that's why it's very important. So we're going to go ahead and plug into our formula and see what we get here. So using the second point y, which is 7, I'll go ahead and put that in parentheses, and the formula is minus the 0.1's y, which is 2, and then we're going to use the 0.2's x's, which is 4, and we're going to subtract the 0.1 x, which is 1. Okay? Now, I put these in parentheses, and I do that for a reason. If this had been a negative 2, then you would have a negative here. And you know, a negative and a negative becomes positive. So I don't want you to confuse that. So that's why I always like to put these in parentheses. So we take 7 minus 2 is 5, 4 minus 1 is 3. And so this is your slope. Okay? Now you can graph these. To graph, all you really need is 1 point and the slope. Or to graph, all you need is 2 points. But we could graph and see what this equation of this line looks like. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. First of all, I'm just going to graph the 2 points that are given so that you can see, well, given 2 points, you can create a line. So what do we have? We have 1, 2. So I'm going to go over 1, up 2. I'll make that red. All right. And then we can graph 0.47. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So there's my 2 points. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line. Make sure. And so there's my line. All right. So I graphed. So you can graph the 2 points. But what if I was just given this point and the slope? Well, then I would graph this point, 1, 2, right? And then I would use the slope to find my second point. Well, this right here, this means rise over run, or the vertical change or the horizontal change. So rise, that means I'm either going to go up or down, okay? And it's positive, so I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up 5. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm right here, right? The run, rise over run. Run means I'm going to be going left or right. I'm going to go right because it's positive 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And what did I end up? I ended up with the point on the line. In fact, it's actually that point that we already have done. I could do it again. I could go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 3. And this is going to end up being on the line if I extended it. Also, remember that 5, 3 is the same thing as a negative 5 divided by a negative 3, because a negative divided negative is positive. So I can look at it this way. So let's start at this point, looking at it this way. This is the same slope. So starting at this point here, then I'm going to go down 5, right? Because this is rise or run. Since it's negative, I'm going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a negative 3, which means I'm going to go left 3. 1, 2, 3. And where did I end up? I ended up on the line. I could do it again and find another point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. And I ended up with another point on the line. So that's what that slope is, all right? So that means that what did we do here? We went up 5, right? And we went to the right 3. If we went down 5, left 3. Down 5, left 3. Okay? Or you could start here. We went up 5 over 3. Up 5 over 3. Up 5 over 3. Okay, that's your slope. Let's look at another problem. You could be given the point and the slope, and they'll say graph the line. All right, well, we kind of just did one of those. So this should be fairly simple for us, right? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to graph the point 2, 0. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 0. All right, 2, 0. And now I'm going to use the slope 2, 3. So it's going to rise over run. Remember, this is rise over run. So that means I'm going to rise 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to run over 3. 1, 2, 3. Second point. Rise 2, 1, 2, over 3. 1, 2, 3. I've got a third point. I could keep doing that. But that is how I'm going to. I only needed 2 points to actually get my line. And I've now graphed the line where the point 2, 0, and it has the slope of 2/3. And last but not least, just real quickly, just some facts. You'll find them on page 104. The first thing that you need to know, that if you end up working the problem, like when we did here, we worked the problem, we ended up getting a slope. But if you end up and your slope is 0, then you know that it's going to be a horizontal line. So your line's going to look like this. It's a horizontal line. So anytime you have the slope of 0, you know it's going to be that. It could be a horizontal line here at 1, 2, 3, 4. It could end up being a horizontal line here, but either way, it's going to be a horizontal line. It could end up being down here. All right, but all 3 of these lines have the slope of 0. If you end up working the slope and you get it undefined, now this would be like you probably got some number divided by 4 equals 0, right? Here, you would get like maybe some number divided by 0. Well, you can't have 0 in the divisor. It's undefined. So anytime you get something like that, it's undefined. If it's undefined, then you're going to have a vertical line. All right? Your line's going to be vertical. So you may have something like this. Whoops. Vertical line. And again, it doesn't matter where that vertical line is. It could be over here. All right, it doesn't matter. It's vertical, so its slope is undefined. Here the slope is 0. Then the other thing you need to know is if you ended up getting a negative slope, then your graph is going to fall downward. So let's say here we have the x-axis and the y-axis. If you have a negative slope, then that should tell you that your graph is going to going from left to right. As I look at this going from left to right, it is falling downward. So anytime you have a negative slope, so if you were to graph something and you got something like this, then that should have told you that because that's negative, that you graphed wrong. So this is always a good check to use. If it's negative, it's going to fall downward from left to right. If you end up with a positive slope, like remember before we had a positive 5/3, right? Well, remember our 5/3? What, going from left to right, what happened? It is rising upward, right? From left to right, it's rising upward. So when you have a positive slope, it rises upward from left to right. So no matter what your graph is, wherever you end up graphing it, this is your x and your y, okay, it's always going to rise upward from left to right. So those are some indicators that might help you double check if you graphed correctly. Some special things to note.